you're going to lose a lot of points starting him from week to week out of pure stubbornness. And then my tight end is Kyle Rudolph. People around the league call this guy a very good tight end, very athletic, as a safety net for Christian Ponder. Kyle Rudolph is the best of a lot of bad decisions up there in Minnesota. They had Percy Harvin, who then got injured. Kyle Rudolph's stats are inflated because of the lack of other options in Minnesota. And now with no Percy Harvin and with Greg Jennings, he's still going to get his looks, but he is not an overly athletic tight end. He is not a game changer. He's one of those guys that when he comes up for a contract renewal, you let him walk because you can replace him. I like the guy. He's a solid player, but he is not a starting tight end in your fantasy league, so don't do it. Don't fall into that trap by thinking Kyle Rudolph is going to be a game changer and a sleeper. He'll have a decent year. He's not going to cost you too many games, but getting more than 7 or 8 points out of him on a week-to-week basis is reaching, and it's unrealistic. Sticking with the NFL, I read that John Gruden's contract with Monday Night Football and ESPN is in its last year, and whispers around the league and from what people are saying, he's looking to get back in coaching, which I would love. I miss Chucky on the sidelines. I miss the grimaces and the yells, and I like having coaches where we don't need to mic them up because we can hear what they're yelling. It's fun. It's entertaining. And quite frankly, I like seeing big 350-pound linemen cower in fear when a guy a foot shorter and 150 pounds lighter than them is screaming in their face. It's so much fun. Plus, we've had enough of this upbeat Gruden. I love his commentary. I love listening to him on Monday Night Football, but I want the old Chucky back. And here are some teams that I think have a real shot at getting him at the end of the year. First is the Chargers. The Chargers have been suffering from a lack of talent. They've lost a lot of guys. Phillip Rivers is really banged up. He's behind a horrible offensive line. And if there's any talent left in that battered body, they're going to need a coach who knows quarterbacks to get it out of them. Enter Gruden. Gruden might be able to wheedle 2 or 3 solid years out of Phillip Rivers at this point. Obviously, they need some more players around Phillip Rivers to make that happen. But that's a team that's been struggling and will probably finish last in its division this year. And if they do, if they finish behind the Chiefs and the Raiders, and they're going to finish behind the Broncos, they might be in the market for a new coach. And Gruden, I think, would be a good fit there. Plus, he's comfortable out in California. He built that Oakland Raider team that eventually he beat in the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. So he likes California. That could be a good fit for him. Another one is the Cowboys. Cowboys are loaded with talent, and I'm a Tony Romo fan. I think he gets unfairly criticized, and I think that people kind of dismiss what is a very good career he's had. He's been at an elite level for a while. Now, he has his bad games where he'll throw the 4 interceptions. But statistically, in the fourth quarter, he is actually a better and more reliable quarterback than just about anybody else in the league. Only guys like Peyton Manning and Eli really compare in fourth quarter game-on-the-line situations. Check it out on like ProFootballFocus.com or Stats Inc. or other such websites because they break that stuff down. And statistically, Tony Romo in the fourth quarter is actually very, very good. That being said, you need some fiery coaches, and the team, for some reason or other, just doesn't seem to be responding to Jason Garrett, who I like. I think he's a good coach, but he just doesn't seem to have this team functioning on all cylinders. And Jerry Jones, Mr. Impatient, is going to go after a guy like Gruden. He's got the money, and he's willing to spend it. So he, if John Gruden became free, would spend big money going after him. Third team that I think has got a chance at him, and here's an interesting one, is the Panthers. The Panthers are looking for wins. A guy like Cam Newton has been putting up great stats, but he's not getting the wins. And if they finish in the last of the division again, behind the Falcons, who have owned that division, the Saints, who are getting Sean Payton back, and then the Bucks, who quietly put up some really big numbers, and if they finish last again, which they probably will, Ron Rivera is going to get fired, and they're going to be on the market for a proven commodity, a guy like a John Gruden. And that's a team with a lot of talent. It's almost like when the Buccaneers fired Tony Dungy, because Tony Dungy couldn't get the Buccaneers over the hump, and then they hired Gruden. I could see something like that happening with the Panthers, where they've got their core of talent in place on defense and on offense, and it just needs some tweaking. So look out for that one. But my top 2 fits for Gruden. First would be the Lions. The Lions have one of the highest payrolls in the NFL. And they seem to be locked in on their core talent. Guys like Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford, and Ndamukong Suh, and now this new rookie draft pick, Ziggy Ansah. They've got their core, and they want to build around that. And what is the biggest problem with the Lions? Consistency, and specifically Matt Stafford's mechanics. How many times we talk, he's got some of the worst mechanics in the NFL despite having one of the most talented arms in the NFL. I mean, this guy can throw it off his back foot 65 yards, no problem. Problem is, he shouldn't be throwing it 65 yards off his back foot. He should be doing it with proper technique. Enter Gruden, Mr. Quarterback Camp himself. I think this would be a perfect fit. And if a guy like Gruden goes to the Lions, we're talking about a team that can now start competing on an annual basis for that division league. Because last year, they finished last despite having a tremendously talented team. But the number 1 fit, if Gruden decides to come back to coaching, the New York Jets. Rex Ryan is a dead man walking. That team has no skill. They are yet again going to be starting Mark Sanchez, who never should have been drafted in the first place, let alone with the 4th overall pick. And they traded their best player in Darrelle Revis. They're going nowhere. They are going to finish at the bottom of could be a very weak division, with the Buffalo Bills starting a rookie quarterback, E.J. Manuel, the Dolphins in complete transition and trying to incorporate a bunch of new people, and then Tom Brady having a bunch of strangers to throw to and an aging defense. This division is up for the taking, and they're going to finish at the bottom of it. I am looking at the Jets to have the number 1 pick, and owner Woody Johnson is not going to like it. Rex Ryan's going to be gone unless they have some sort of miracle run deep into the postseason. Even making the playoffs for the Jets is probably not going to be enough to save Rex Ryan's job. So if Gruden comes back, I'd look for him to be a top candidate for the New York Jets coaching job. Before we switch up from the NFL, I want to talk to you about Thielander and Thielander, attorneys at law. Being arrested or accused of a crime can be a life-altering experience. So if you find yourself in that situation, you need the best representation. With a combined 60-plus years of experience, Thielander and Thielander can handle any situation, from traffic tickets to felony charges. Based out of DuPage County, Thielander and Thielander is the firm you need to get the results you want. Call now at 630-858-0880 to set up your consultation. Thielander and Thielander. Simply the best. I want to talk about baseball for a few minutes because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of great storylines going around the Major League Baseball this year. So ignore all that A-Rod crap and try to focus on it. But there is another negative thing. One of the positive stories has been the Royals and their ability to hang in till the very end. But they suffered a major blow this week. Their starting shortstop, Miguel Tejada, tested positive for PEDs. Now, he is not linked to biogenesis, but he is suspended for 105 games, which completely ends this season.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
This is a guy who was a former MVP of the American League when he was with the A's, and he's had a very big impact for the Royals. Now, usually losing a guy can somewhat be overcome. If you lose a starting pitcher, that's 1 of 5 starting pitchers, a guy in the bullpen, or even an outfielder. These guys can usually be replaced with only a minimal drop-off. Losing a shortstop that's also a key bat in your lineup, that is season-changing. And with the Royals already 5 or 6 games out of the wild card, that pretty much ends their season, at least in my eyes. And it's really unfortunate because baseball needs small market teams like the Royals, the Twins, the A's, the Rays, the Orioles, the Pirates. They need those teams to step up and compete because those are markets that can draw revenue if they have successful franchises. Teams like the Yankees and the Cubs and the Mets and the Dodgers, they always draw money whether they're winning or not. And the NFL needs the small market teams to be good to draw that revenue. So this is a bad blow for baseball, and it's a bad blow for the Royals, who up until this week had a realistic shot at making the playoffs. But in a positive note, baseball is looking to expand the use of replay next year in baseball. And here is the way the plan is outlined. Starting in 2014, a manager is allowed one challenge in innings 1 through 6, and then from the 7th inning to the end of the game, he's allowed 2 challenges. So far, the presentation of this has been given by Joe Torre, who's VP of the MLB. It needs a 75% vote to pass when the vote comes up in November. Now, it hasn't been announced yet exactly what can and cannot be challenged, but this is a big step forward for baseball. Baseball's biggest problem is it gets mired down in its own tradition and it refuses to embrace developing trends in America. And the fact is, last night we had a Red Sox versus Yankees 4-hour and 16-minute game. I don't know about you. I don't have 4 hours and 16 minutes to watch 2 teams who aren't my home team. Even though I love baseball, I could sit and watch it all day. I don't have that kind of time. And I'm not going to do it. And people are worried about extending the game too long. There's a lot of ways to cut time in baseball. I mean, you do not have to worry about replay. It hasn't affected football at the college or pro level. It hasn't affected basketball at the college or pro level. Instant replay is a good thing for baseball, and it is the first step at getting them into the 21st century. And I personally hope they expand the use of technology even more. I say get rid of umpires calling balls and strikes. With our technology, you can create an electronic strike zone that will automatically register whether or not a pitch crosses that barrier. Why do we have guys calling balls and strikes anymore? No more of this adjustable strike zone that's different from Greg Maddux to it is to Joe Schmo. Enough. Get that in there. Get the technology in there. That way we don't have to worry about controversial calls and guys can get by on skill alone rather than favoritism. You need referees and umpires there for only a couple reasons. One, to keep order on the baseball field. So when guys get plunked or guys empty the dugouts, they're there to quell that little hot-headedness. And the other thing they need it for is for bang-bang plays at the plates. When a guy is thrown out at first and it's right there, or a guy at home. Just those bang-bang plays is what you need the umpires for. But other than that, get the technology in there. Quit being stubborn. Get it done. But like I said, that vote comes up in November. They need a 75% vote to pass. And I think there's a good chance, from what I've been reading, that it's going to pass. And it's a good thing for baseball. I mentioned in the beginning that we're going to have a news segment this week. And here's what it is. It's called For the Love of the Game. Every week, I'm going to end my show by giving you some positive stories from around sports. There's so much negativity about who's doing drugs, who's been arrested, this, that, and the other. We hear so much about people's personal problems, being arrested for DUI and stuff. Very little gets focused on great stories around the league and what's happening. So that's how I'm going to start ending this show every week. And for the love of the game this week, I've got several good stories for you. The first one is about wrestler Darren Young. Now, a lot of people don't like wrestling. I'm personally a huge fan, but this isn't about wrestling so much as it is a professional athlete who came out to TMZ last week. He came out as a homosexual while he was just picking up his bag in LAX airport in Los Angeles. He got confronted by a guy on TMZ, and the guy on TMZ asked him how he thinks a gay professional wrestler would fare in the world of wrestling. And this professional wrestler, Darren Young, he calmly said, well, I'm gay, I'm happy, and I'm doing great. Bravo to him and to the WWE, who've handled it with nothing but class and great publicity. They haven't pushed it as a marketing gimmick. They've merely come out and supported his decision. A lot of guys in the locker room already knew that he was homosexual, and obviously it hasn't affected their relationship with him at all. And now he's getting tons of positive support, and they've been able to keep it from affecting how they do business or without it even becoming much of a media circus. And it just got me thinking. Jason Collins, a guy who is still not signed with a team, announces that he's gay, and front page news. Everybody's talking about, the first major sports star. Well, he wasn't a star. He wasn't even on a team that year. Here's a guy who is a young up-and-coming wrestler. He doesn't have any position with this company. He's not a top merchandise seller or main eventing pay-per-views. He's a low guy on the totem pole. And yet he made the decision